Hello, welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries. As predicted and narrated very well by the real brains behind everything, there was a bloom, there was a cold spell, followed by a warm, wet spell, and all of the machines being cold had a layer of condensation. Everything sweated and everything was dripping wet. Luckily, we managed to oil everything up beforehand, and there's only the odd bit that was missed. You can see here this mandrel that I made for the middle of the rotary table. That wasn't oiled, I forgot about that, and you can see how everything in the garage would look like that right now if it hadn't had a layer of oil on. So everything's been fairly well protected. There isn't really any visible casualty. There's the odd tiny bit of the frame, perhaps round down here where you can see there's a tiny bit of rust there. They missed a bit of the oily rag, but by and large we've come out of it relatively unscathed, and that is good news. So that's my garage. In the shed next door there's a bit less of an impact because the shed next door is wood, and that seems to be a bit more sympathetic, and there isn't a big gap in the door. So while I've been sitting in the garage here on the stool of contemplation thinking about things, I've been thinking a little bit about the rear lights. Now I've got a cat's eye here because I really like cat's eye lights. I like the old school look, they function really well, and they've got a number plate light built in as well. And I was just wondering whether I should attach it to the back of the what do you call it, the sissy bar, back of the sissy bar, and then put the number plate underneath, but that might be a little bit high for the rules and the regulations. I could also fit it to the back of the mudguard. That looks quite good, but it might be angled up a bit. So what I think I'm going to do is to get a little bit of a little bit of steel tube, put a bend in it, weld it to the mudguard with a hole in the bottom, and put a bracket on the back so I can bolt that to the tube so it's at the right angle. There's a nice tube going down with a hole in for the wire, bracket for that, and then the number plate can go underneath. So that's what I think I'm going to do. At some point I am going to have to weld onto the frame, so I think I need to just pop my cherry and just do a bit of welding on the frame. Once I've done the first bit, everything else will be fine, but at the moment it's all been really well welded up by other people, and you know what it's like. The first weld that you do, it'll be like Mr. Blobby's done it. However well you practice now, however well they go, the ones that count, the ones that everybody can see, never seem to turn out quite so well. So in the other shed, I'm just going to teleport now because we've got a bit of progress on the gearbox. The shed fairy Mr. Bob has been busy, and there's another plan afoot about the machine that I'll tell you about shortly. Oof, here we are in the other shed. As you can see, being mostly wood. Wood door, wood frame, wood construction. Nothing in here has bloomed or gone particularly rusty either, which is very good. So over here on the gearbox, you can see the shed fairy Mr. Bob has been busy working on the gear selector mechanism. So there's a couple of clevises here and a linkage here so that we should be able to select the two gears, low gear, high gear, or listen to that, low gear, high gear, not the dogs barking, I mean this mechanism. So this has given us sort of a 2-to-1 leverage here. There is a bit more movement here as well, because you want the hand change on the tank to have a little bit more movement in it than just that tiny amount there. And that's a starting point, so we can move this pin anywhere we like in here to give us more or less travel. Got to work out once we go forwards along the bike how to bring the lever up and then to a knob on the top, but that's a real good nice action from the start. So the rest of the gear assembly isn't all in there. This is just to get the detent and the shaft working, but that's lovely. That is real nice job by Mr. Bob. So thank you, Mr. Shed Fairy. Right, plans afoot on the other machine, just on the other side of the shed behind me. Ta-da, right there in the corner. So last Christmas, if you remember, we spent a bit of time and we set up the 540 grinding machine that hadn't been run since it came back to the shed from whence it came, and we had to get a three-phase inverter or converter and then oil it and get it up and running. And that was a Christmas job either last year or 2 years ago. So this Christmas the job is to get this lovely shaper back into commission. So the motor at the bottom is toast. and as you can see, there's a few other motors that have come our way, none of which are any good. So it's a case of spending a few £100 on a 2 horsepower single phase motor with a good starting current, working out the best way to mount it, fitting the pulleys, working out what speed it needs to run at, because there's a bit of a reduction drive there that goes to this pulley here, which also then goes to an old car gearbox. That's off some kind of Austin. It's a 3-speed box that then's another reduction drive to here to finally drive the shaper. Now it does move, it does work if I'm really strong, if I'm feeling strong. Can you see that moving? Yeah, it's definitely moving today. So nothing is seized up, it's just the motor. So come the Christmas break, there we go, I said the C word, sorry. Come the Christmas break, that's going to be the project, to get a couple of things done in the couple of weeks we've got off work, and perhaps have a tidy up in this corner as well, while we keep on with the rest of the project. So that's the plan. As usual, thank you for watching. More updates will follow.